mean, Haiti is facing a combination of an institutional and constitutional crisis. And as it stands right now, under the regime of the Constitution we're under, there needs to be a new elected president by February 7th of 2026. So therefore, the challenge for Conille is to deliver security and elections within the next 2 years.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the Creole Narratives podcast, a podcast that aims to amplify the rich history and stories of the Haitian diaspora. I'm your host, Fadia Patterson, and we'll dive right back into that conversation with Haitian journalist Harold Isaac in just a few moments. But first on this episode, we'll be catching up on a lot of current events that went down in Haiti just this week alone, including the fact that the Prime Minister was transported to the hospital for a medical emergency. 24 hours later, he was discharged and released the following video to the public to inform them about the status of his health. Also in that video, the Prime Minister expresses how much he wants to focus on improving the healthcare system in Haiti. We'll also be discussing the security crisis in Haiti after several members of the Haitian police's anti-gang unit were ambushed, 3 of which were murdered. We also dive into the deployment of Kenyan police, which will now include Kenyan pastors who have now been enlisted to assist with the Haiti mission. Keeping up with all of the current events is Haitian journalist Harold Isaac. Hello, Harold. Thank you so much for joining us on the Creole Narratives podcast all the way from Port-au-Prince, Haiti, where I'm sure you're seeing firsthand everything play out there. So, Harold, can you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself?
Well, thanks, Fadia, for having me. It's really appreciated to be talking to, a fellow Haitian descent person and to be sharing about what's going on here in Haiti. It's always a pleasure. Well, listen, I mean, over the last 3 months, Haiti has been going down in a spiral of violence, where gangs have, for the most part, taken over 80% of the capital, Port-au-Prince, and have taken on government, managed to get to obtain the resignation of Ariel Henry, Prime Minister Ariel Henry, who was stranded abroad, which kick-started a chain of events where eventually a new government through a transitional council has been installed. That transitional council essentially takes over the realm of President Jovenel Moïse, who was assassinated on July 7th, 2021. It's almost been 3 years now. And this transitional council, which is composed of 9 members, but with 7 who have effectively voting rights, so 7 presidents of sorts, get to decide. They have executive power to engage the country on the executive level. Now, what happens, you also need someone to be operating the country on a day-to-day basis, just like Ariel Henry would do as an interim premier. So now you have a new ad interim premier that has been tapped by the Transitional Council, and his name is Gary Conille. And Gary Conille is a former UN personnel. He was working at UNICEF for the Latin American region for the last year or so. And so he's essentially left a fairly important and good job to come and take on the challenge of Haiti. And he had a health scare this weekend where he was rushed to the hospital for respiratory issues, but he's out of the woods now and is back at work. But that being said, and it's Haiti, everything is complicated. There's a technicality. He is tapped. He is named. He is officially the Prime Minister, but is not effectively the Prime Minister right now because he needs to be installed along with his cabinet, which has yet to be composed and finalized. So this is where we stand right now on that front.
And he's not new to this role, right? He has experience from before, years ago, I believe. Under which administration was he actually serving as the Prime Minister before?
So Gary Conille served as briefly for a brief time period of time, roughly 6 to 7 months, if I'm not mistaken, back in 2011 under the under the regime, the then freshly installed regime of Martelli, Michel Martelli, also known as Sweet Mickey, the singer. And that didn't go down well for them because they had personal feud and personal clashes, and he eventually resigned because it was that he had been kind of put there to be the adult in the room, right? Because they didn't know what to expect from that regime back then, and they were benefiting at that time from a very generous loan program from Venezuela, which was called the Petrocaribe. So there was a lot of money involved. There was also the help money from the earthquake. So there are a lot of tensions related to how that money should be spent on what project. And of course, there were a lot of allegations of corruption. So Conille felt under a lot of pressure and eventually, he quitted. So, but now he's back at it, right? He's back at it. And if you ask most folks, who have a head on their shoulder, they're like, okay, he still could fail, but that's perhaps in the circumstances and among the 200 so people that have tried to get the job, that have applied, it is likely the one that first had a job, an actual real job, that he was living to get in, and also the profile, to be in this. So it's a complicated time in Haiti, right. But he's showing some sort of leadership, and everybody's trying to give him a chance with that at this stage, where it's still early. It's not even installed yet.
Is the end goal of the transitional council the hope of having an election to eventually have a new president?
This is another rabbit hole because so the core of one of the problems, Haiti is facing a combination of an institutional and constitutional crisis. And as it stands right now, under the regime of the constitution we're under, there needs to be a new elected president by February 7th of 2026. So therefore, the challenge for Conille is to deliver security and elections within the next 2 years. Within the current context, not only you have economic dismay, the country is facing a massive economic crisis, you also have a country on the brink of collapse. Half of the population is facing famine-like hunger right now, and you feel it. Like people, like kids are emaciated. The rise in cholera. There's a lot. It's a lot all at once. But that being said, and I'm not the only one thinking it. We are in a somewhat better footing than we were, let's say, during March. March was really, really bad. April got a little bit better. May got a little bit better. The country feels a little bit better than it has, at the beginning of that crisis. But now you're facing the political crisis that needs to be resolved to be able to address the security crisis, to be able to address the humanitarian crisis, to be able to deliver on elections. So all of these things, they simply cannot wait, because if they fail to be addressed, they're gonna lead us to even more and more and more into this cycle of crisis.
We're going to talk a little bit more about the security crisis a little further on, but first, I want to touch on the healthcare crisis, because Conille did talk about it in his video that he released, talking about that being one of the main issues that he wants to focus on. Can you describe what he said and what his goals are?
Well, listen, I've had the discussion with friends. Of course, Haiti is complicated. When you look at it, the devil is in the details. So you really have to pay attention to very, very subtle nuances. And if you look at the face of it, in any other places, a prime minister that faces such a health emergency would be likely rushed to a public hospital albeit it could be a government hospital or something very considered high end with the best doctors and whatnot. He did not go to a public hospital. He went to a private clinic where he was treated with the best care possible in the country, and there were high pressure for him to be medically evacuated, which, from what I understand, he refused. And you could say that it's all to his honor that he did. Because he still is the first, kind of the first effective citizen of the country. But although you would have on top of him the presidents. So what he said is relevant, in the sense that he understands his blessing, that he's been able to be cared for, but it's not the case for the majority of people who in that situation would have likely died for A, because of lack of access to the care, and B, because it could not necessarily afford it, right? So and these are realities. So there was a good reception to this message, that we need to think for everybody else. Now, will the reality follow? If we don't know. He's seeing the very challenges in the very composition of his cabinet, which has been a challenge because there's so much pressure for every sectors to have their represented in the government. So in a weird way, you're having a kind of a national union, or so we could say Haitian style, which we don't know how it's going to end up and whether or not he will effectively be able to implement any sort of policies. And when you also have issues within the presidential council, which is facing its own set of contradictions, its own set of challenges, its own set of infightings, and that have yet to be resolved. So it's someone joked that it's mission impossible. But and as one of the columnist at the Nouvelliste and Magic 9 said, it's mission impossible. But if you remember well, Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible eventually prevails and eventually succeeds. So in a weird way, this is kind of a good encapsulation of what the situation is. You have a country facing a multiple set of crises simultaneously, and you're asking probably the best trained guy in the room to do something about it. So, I mean, have MacGyver trying to do something, but he may or may not succeed in doing it, so this is where we stand.
Right. I like the comparison to a movie, but this is reality, right? And a lot of the people say when they talk about Haiti, they suck their teeth on a lot of the issues that are going on. They feel like there's been a lot of outside agitators. And especially when it comes to now, Kenyan police are being deployed. What are you hearing from residents who are living there and how they feel about the situation? Do they feel that Kenyan police being deployed to Haiti will make the situation better?
Well, a lot of folks in the past few months, and there was even polls about it, they said we need external help, in whichever way we can. Because what is not being said is Haitians are scared of corruption within, let's say, the police, and they don't know to what extent it can really effectively respond to the situation, considering that there is a lot of interconnections that are unknown to folks, and therefore that's why they're like, if we get something from abroad, it's probably better. But that being said, and Reuters reported about it, the Kenyan also have their own motivations, which are not necessarily compatible with the ground reality, where it appears that they also have a religious agenda, and they believe, from what is being said and what is being told, that they consider that voodoo to be the biggest problem of Haiti and that it should be addressed or resolved, right? And when you hear that, it's scary because this is not part of like what the UN backs, the UN sanctioned, the UN Security Council sanctioned mission is about. There's no religious component to it. But when the population and its culture and its complexity is seen as an actual threat, then you're dealing with another problem that's gonna, probably surface down the road. So this is where, yes, most folks, they are saying we need help. wherever it comes from, you're likely going to run into people double guessing and be like, okay, did we get that right? Is it the right thing to do? Right. So it's complicated. And that's the thing with Haiti. I mean, you cannot get out of it with a quick fix or a quick address. Because for the benefit of your audience, I would say that they need to understand Haiti in a historical perspective. Before being independent for the past 220 years, an independence that we've literally ripped from colonizers, we were an enslaved country for 299 years. And that part is overlooked many, many times. But that tragedy that we lived for 299 years informed our behavior in how we perceive the world and how we interact with the world. And therefore, once you understand that first level, you get to have a very different kind of look at the current events and how they are unfolding, because the society is more complex than people realize, and therefore, of course, the Kenyan could be coming with another agenda, but they may very likely discover that the whole country may stand in their way if they try that, because saying that you're coming to convert Haitians because you want to rip like voodoo from them is not understanding that 100% of Haitians have some sort of implication with voodoo. It's like there's this joke that Haiti is 30%, so 20% Catholic, 30% Protestant, and 100% voodoo, right? So because their behavior is informed by it, right? So when you see it, you may not notice it or realize it, but it's out there, it's everywhere, right? So anyway, it's just to give you a bit of a glimpse into the complexity of what is being dealt with and what is being discussed. And I think it's also informed a lot of the the unsaid and unsung realities that we've been facing.
Gangs appear to still be an issue there. I know that there were at least 3 law enforcement officials that were attacked in an ambush. Can you describe what happened and give us an update on what's happening with that story?
So, in an echo, I would say, of a tragedy that happened on March 12, 2021, where a SWAT unit was ambushed in Village de Dieu and were gruesomely killed. On Sunday, June 9th, a patrol of UTAG, which is the brand new anti-gang unit, a sort of a SWAT team composed from many units in the police. They're elite police officers. Were what it appears to be patrolling pretty much normally the areas of Lower Delmas, which is within Barbecue's vicinity and territory, when their armored truck fell in a trench. And when it did, what is being said is that they got stormed by dozens of armed men that set the armored truck on fire, and it appears that they've died suffocating. So there are at least 4 officers. There was 1 that fled, but 3 that died, and their body was burnt and mutilated. And even, Barbecue himself virtually claimed responsibility for that. So it sent shockwaves to the community, sent shockwaves to the Haitian society, because it's not that there is some sort of hierarchy in the police, but these guys are in the front line of the gang crisis, and they are the one dealing with it. And they've had success in the past few months, and now you have that. It's a major setback. It's a moral blow, and it's a morale blow as well on them. So, of course, you're having finger pointing, and they're still trying to. It's still fresh. It also kind of it's a a testament to the situation of gangs as well, who are challenged. I mean, this is clearly a setback, but the gangs have been challenged in the past a couple months, and they are under a lot of pressure. So it's almost as if you're seeing kind of an articulation of that in that incident, which is really sad. Most people are living it like that, but it's unclear, where we're headed from there. How the police will react, and all of that is it's too early to call.
Unbelievable. So we're now approaching the anniversary of the assassination of Jovenel Moise. Recently, his wife, his widow, and his family were awarded a settlement in which several people who were charged, who were convicted of being responsible or taking part in that assassination, would now have to pay millions of dollars, I believe $6 million. Where is that money coming from?
That's a very good question, and that's what everybody's been asking. But I've spoken to folks, and nobody believes that she'll see a dime out of that money because these guys have pledged it. It's unclear where they'd be getting it, right? So it seems like more of a symbolic victory than anything else. And it also goes to show one of the problems with the investigation because it turned out to be international, and because of the various different capacities of various jurisdiction and whether or not they are able to advance with the investigation, you turn out to have a mosaic of investigations going on. And you also have a mosaic of approaches to the matter. And it, honestly, people here, they doubt that we'll ever know really what happened that night and who is really, responsible for the death of the president. So,
his wife was accused at one point, correct?
Listen, I mean, there's been so many people accused in that thing. It's beyond anything. I mean, at this point, it almost looks like the fish is. There's an attempt to drown the fish, right? So. But the reality, and that's the thing too, I mean, both in its genesis and how this assassination came to be with international mercenaries and all of that, and the very fact that it happened in Haiti, it's a fatal combination that makes that this is a investigation that spawns on several countries, right? Several jurisdiction with sometimes conflicting interest. So it's, expecting something assertive, definitive from it is almost an illusion at this point. And personally, I don't believe we'll ever know. I don't believe we'll ever know what actually happened that night. And we've been kind of caught in the consequences of that investigation. Of that assassination for as long as the past 3 years. So, and this is the thing. It would have been complicated even in countries with the means to conduct an investigation like that, let alone in Haiti, where it's an extraordinary situation that has never been seen before. It's unsolved. Yeah.
Harold, thank you so much for your time. It's so appreciated. Every time my family and we talk, and relatives, when we talk about Haiti, we describe it as more demagogy than democracy. So do you ever anticipate that Haiti will ever reach that status where it's on track politically, healthcare-wise, security-wise?
Well, Haiti's my home, and I always tend to think of it as a home. A wise man once said to me that a house is like a living thing. You always need to be caring for it, whichever way you can, because otherwise it collapses. And I think it's the same with this country. I mean, I used to live in Canada personally. I was born in Canada. I was raised until 4, and my mom, my late mom, she was a prominent broadcaster here in Haiti. She passed last year on July 31st. Her name was Lillian Pierre Paul. And she brought me back from Canada. Here I was 4. I was raised here, spent 15 years. I went back to Canada in 2001, just before the towers attack, and then I spent 15 years in Canada, and I got back to Haiti roughly in 2015, 2016. I've been in Haiti ever since 2015. And to me, I love this country. I love it with all my heart, and I don't see myself being anywhere else. And this is the thing, you when and I have many friends who are here too, that came back. Who came back from abroad, and we're hanging in there because we know this is what it takes to, for this country to get better, to be more attractive to its kids, because there's so many. I mean, I wish for you to one day be able to come here and enjoy it. There's so much to discover. We're going through a rough patch. It may not be the best time, but me, my friends, and many people I know are working just for that. So so just to give you a gist of what is going on. It's complicated. It's tough love. But I think we all share that. We share that love.
Harold Isaac, thank you for joining us on the Creole Narratives podcast. Hope to have you back and discuss more current events, because there's a lot of twists and turns to this story.
Thanks, Fadia. Always a pleasure, and I'm available whenever you need me.